días, mis espíritus. How is everyone? All right, so I finished jelly printing on all the pages that I wanted to have some jelly printing. I know you're really close up. Let's see if I can pull you back just a wee bit so you're not so close. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'll give it a try. Yeah, probably not going to work. I'm trying to figure out a good setup here. And a lot of my stuff, like my phone stand, probably is close to what I need for this whole thing, but not exactly. I'd like the phone to be a little bit higher, but we'll find a good setup soon enough. So yes, I jelly printed on all the pages that I want to have jelly printing, and I snuck them into signatures, which we will discuss, pinky swear. And then I kind of cheated a little. I promised you that I would show you me trimming the pages, but I went ahead and did it. This is the book that we chopped up. It still has just duct tape here, but don't worry, that will change. They fit in here. They're a little tall, but all I did was I just stuck all the pages together and folded them and stuck them in this book, and then I looked, okay, how far on top is it poking out, how far on the edges and on the bottom as well. And I decided that I didn't mind too much if on the top and the bottom it's right to the edge of the cover of the book. But for the inside edge, I did want it, when everything is all said and done, I did want it to end just on the inside of the cover, maybe an inch or so. We'll take a measurement because I know we are wanting those. The signatures themselves, which again we'll talk about exactly what they are and how to make them, are approximately 1.5 millimeters away from the edge of the book, or, oh wait, maybe not, hold on. I'm not a very good measurer, just to let you know. Yeah, I might not be a good measurer. Let's try it again. Okay. Approximately 1 3/4 of an inch, or 2 millimeters away from the edge. And that probably doesn't convert because I'm not really taking exact measurements. It's a little over 1 3/4. So that's how far in it is. The cover of this journal that we are making is over 12 inches or over 30 millimeters. Not much over though. We're talking like maybe 12 1/4 inches by just under 9 1/4 inches, or 23 millimeters in width. How much was it? Maybe just under 31 millimeters in height. In depth, the actual spine here, that's about, let me turn it on my side, on the side, 3.5 millimeters, or an inch just under 1.5 inches. Yeah, between 1.25 inches and 1.5 inches. So those are the measurements of the actual book, the cover. The signatures are, and I ripped them, so they're not perfect. We can actually take most of these out so that we're not distracted by all kinds of extra thingamabobs. I will measure, and then we will discuss signatures. The actual signatures are, maybe if I held the ruler straight, that might help, almost 12 inches. They are just shy of 12 inches, which means they are just over 30 millimeters in height. In width, they are 21.5 millimeters, or 8.5 inches, just shy of 8.5 inches. And I'm not counting all the little tallies. How I usually do this is, I'll bring it up closer so that you can see. So here's 1 inch. Here's 1 inch. Here's 1/2 inch. Here's 3/4 inch. Here's 1/4 inch. And that's where the 0 line starts. So I don't really count anything in here. My brain just can't do it anymore. Maybe I could do it in 2nd or 3rd grade or whatever, but I just can't do it anymore. So now, if my cat lets us, he's a little upset with me, we will talk about what is a signature, what I've done with these pages, what we're going to do next, etc. A signature is a pack of paper that is inserted into a book cover. There are lots of different ways that this can happen. If it's professionally done, it can be, many, 50, 100 tiny little signatures all sewn in. It can be one very, very large signature with many pages inside of it. It can be sewn together. It can be glued together. It can be stapled together. There are many different ways that you can do it, or it can be done, rather. The signature might be attached to itself. So this might be stapled or sewn or glued or whatever, and then later inserted into the book via similar methods, sewing, gluing, stapling, etc. Or each page or signature can be taped into the spine of a book. There's all different sorts of ways to do it. And how many pages you want in a signature depends on a number of factors. It depends on how big the book is, what you're going to do in the book, what things you might add in the book, that sort of thing. This book in particular, I'm working through a couple of things in my art journey right now. And one of those things is when books are virgin, I guess, is one way to say it. Like when I have not written or drawn or this book is not complete yet, I haven't sewn it in, that sort of thing. When books have not yet been arted in, when the book is closed, I want this to be small. A problem that I've had in the past is that I've added just so many pages and so many signatures, which I can show you an example, not at this exact minute. It's kind of tucked underneath this desk. But they'll set up a little bit, which really doesn't bother me. A gator mouth doesn't bother me at all. But it makes it difficult for transportation, and it exposes the pages of the book to more damage, that sort of thing. And I'm the type of person that sort of eats with my eyes. You know, you see a really amazing meal and you're like, oh my gosh, it looks so good. I'm starving. I'm hungry. And you make this big giant plate and you go to your table and you start eating, and then you realize that you really didn't have all that much room in your stomach for all that food. I do the same thing with art, but it's not like in a little way. It's a very massive way. I will start a book with a gator mouth and then add things. And then by the end, the book no longer shuts at all. Not even a little bit. There's no more diagonal of the cover. It's wide open. And I end up having to detach the spine, expand the spine, find new ways to make spines in order to create a book where it will close again, even if it still maintains a little bit of a gator mouth. So I specifically wanted this book when it closed to be, if I can get the whole thing in shot, a little bit of an angled down when it closes. Not a lot, but a little bit. And the reason why is because we have an art journey to go on together, which I'm going to tell you what our next step is. I'll start doing it, and then I'll explain what our art journey is that we're going on together. So, depending on how much you want to add to your book, will tell you how many pages you want in a signature and how many signatures you want. This is a very small spine. It's very thin. So I knew I didn't want a lot of signatures. I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 signatures, I believe, in the past, with hundreds and hundreds of pages. Like, when I say I was eating with my eyes, we're talking maybe 600 pages, possibly. They're enormous. I have a tendency to make quite enormous books. So with this one, I knew that I was going to be adding a lot of elements, and that in the end, this might end up being quite large. So I decided to use fewer pages than I ever have in the past. And I believe there's 10 pages in each signature. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are just tuck-ins for my next topic, so just hold on. I believe I just said 7, 8, 9, and 10. Yeah. Which, as I look across YouTube, is kind of an average number of pages, but it's fewer than I usually use. Let's just put it like that. So we have 10 pages. I put them in the book. I ripped them. So what I did was I just figured out how big I wanted it to be. I drew a line with a pencil. I shut this. The page was sticking out. I just drew a line here. I didn't measure. And then I would take the paper out, put the ruler on it, and rip it. And I just did that all the way through. I would tuck, now that I had measured it against the book, I could use this page as a template for how big I wanted, for where I wanted to cut the other pages. And you got to remember, the page on the inside, this is the smallest page in the signature. Unless you add like little add-ons or stuff, like little envelopes in in certain signatures, that sort of thing. This page, all the way, this double-sided page, is smaller than this one. And the reason why is because as you fold and tuck in pages, this fold here pushes each consecutive page further and further out, so that the page that is in the very middle will end up needing to be cut more than the page that is on the very outside. So once you trim it, the other thing I did, there were a couple of pages that, for artistic reasons, like I really liked the picture or something, or I didn't want to trim it, or I want to add a fold out later. I didn't rip them. I just folded it. I folded it in because I didn't want to cut it off for whatever reason. So there are a few pages here and there, not with really any rhyme or reason, but they are folded inward. I thought about adding little envelopes and things into the signature, but I changed my mind. The next thing we need to do is, for years and years and years, I have created, let me see if I can find one. Should be one pretty close by. Here's one. I'm still here, I promise. I'm right here. Okay. For years and years and years, I've created all sorts of journals. Gotta fix the cover on this one. I usually, in the past, I would leave the outside blank. And this is kind of why, because over time, paint and different things can get onto the cover. So I would just cover them in a paper bag from the grocery store and just leave it blank until later on. It also allows me, like, if the cover is damaged for whatever reason, I don't have to destroy a piece of art in order to replace the cover. So for years and years and years, I would make these journals with all sorts of different things that I just had laying around, coloring pages, scrapbook pages. But when it came to an acrylic page, or I really wanted to do, yes, this ripped open, and we will discuss why. Acrylic paint would stick to itself. So I would end up, this one, I went over it probably 1,000 times, like, okay, what can I do? Do I put a sealant on it? Do I put a spray? Do I put Mod Podge? Which is actually what in part destroyed it. I'd sealed this side in Mod Podge because I was just so frustrated with other pieces of art getting destroyed that I was like, I'm going to figure something out here. So, but no matter what I do, pages would just continue to stick. Even when I applied Mod Podge, pages were continuing to stick no matter what I did. So I would just end up tucking pieces of printer paper into my journals, and I couldn't stand the way it looked. It was really frustrating. Sorry, I'm stumbling a little bit on my words. I'm a little tired this morning. Still here, just putting my journal away. So anyways, I was watching a YouTuber the other night, and she was discussing this very thing. She was like, oh, so many people ask me, how do you keep your pages from sticking together? And I wouldn't use a spray. I don't know why it's such a big question. Then all of a sudden, like magic, she says, I just use the same thing. It's really not that big of a surprise. I just use clear gesso. And I was like, oh my word. No. I have been doing mixed media junk art journals for probably going on a decade now or longer. And you're telling me that this whole time I could have just gotten a bottle of gesso and then my pages wouldn't stick to each other. So that is what we are going to do. Gesso is basically a paint with chalk in it. That's not exactly what it is. There's a whole bunch of like DIY recipes on the internet that you can find to make this stuff if you aren't able to buy it or aren't able to find it where you are. But it is a medium that will prime a surface so that you can add paint or other things to it, mixed media. And it adds tooth. That's kind of the chalky thing that a lot of people reference, or baby powder or whatever that they use. It adds tooth so that the paint sticks to the surface that you're using. And it just blew me away that this was all I needed the whole time. And when she said it, I was like, you're absolutely right. That I can't believe I didn't think of that. So we are going to use, so we are going to use clear gesso, and it needs to be matte. A lot of acrylic paints are gloss or semi-gloss or high gloss. Whether they're craft paints, soft body, heavy body, a lot of them are some type of gloss. And if you want to prevent other things from sticking to them, a really good method to achieve that is just to use a matte clear gesso. So that is all I'm going to be doing really in this video. You'll see I have this right here is actually not part of the signature. The only reason why it's there is because I decided to fold this over, and there's a little bit of paint on this side. You fold it over, you stick it in a book, you leave it there for a while, it's going to stick. So the only thing we're really going to be doing, or I'm going to be doing, is just going through each signature and applying a coat of gesso onto the pages that have paint. Also, when I folded them, when I stacked up 10 sheets, fold them, use a bone folder like this. And the other thing I did was some of these pages were 2 sheets of paper. I just glued them together. I just glued them with Fabri-Fix or white glue, whatever I had in my hand at the moment. I just glued them together. It doesn't matter to me in the end because I'm going to be doing so many changes to these pages that how they're attached doesn't really matter to me at this point. I hope I didn't forget anything. I am trying so hard. So the only thing I'm going to be doing, I'm sorry, that must have been very loud. The only thing I'm going to be doing today is gessoing these pages. And one thing that you want to keep in mind when you're gessoing is, I'm right here. My son and I had a spa day and we painted our nails. And, oh, they're not back in there yet. One second. They're over here. Gesso can be very, very rough. I don't want this page. Gesso can be very, very rough on your brushes. So if you have paint brushes that are very special to you, I have some silver brushes in a different place where I keep my heavy body and professional acrylic paints. I would never let gesso touch them. It can totally destroy your brushes over time. So you can use foam sponges like this, or you can use a junkier brush as a small one, but I have bigger ones, but I'm going to use foam. I think I might change my mind, but you can also use like a credit card. I've seen lots of people use all different sorts of like gift cards and credit cards and membership cards. And all you have to do is open this. I will be now. Don't usually keep clear gesso on hand, so I had to go out and get some. Usually I have white gesso, and you can use white gesso too. The only reason why I chose to get clear gesso is because there was a possibility that I might do a jelly print that I really loved, and I didn't want to turn white and for it to be all diluted down later. So that is the only reason why I got any clear gesso. Maybe I will use a credit card or a brush. I really like using brushes. Or at least a smaller sponge. Those are so big. So all you're going to do, pour some gesso on the page. I have a problem with gesso. Every single time I ever use gesso, I get it everywhere. There's nothing I can do about it. It just gets everywhere. All over me, all over my clothes, gets everywhere. You are just going to apply a very thin coat to anything that has acrylic paint or glossy paint or glue or anything you don't want to stick to the next page. I might have to add just a tiny bit more. It wasn't quite enough to cover the whole page. This is where the problem comes in. This is where I end up getting everything covered. No, I need a little more gesso. And then all of a sudden I'm covered in it. I don't know how it happens. That's how it happens every time. All right. So that's all I'm going to be doing. And I will not bore you by making you sit and watch through it all. This will probably be I mean, it's 26 minutes, but this will probably be the end of this video. I might add a little clip in at the end of all the pages, you know, gessoed. You usually need to leave it for 24 hours or so. Undiluted or thin, leave to dry for at least 24 hours. Yep. So tomorrow we will add the signatures into the cover, but it might be today for you because I might just upload both of them at the same time. This video is a lot of talking and not much arting. So, and I never told you what our super secret project is that we're doing here with this specific junk journal. But I have also, before I end our little time here together today, I have a very secret package coming in the mail today that will actually help me explain our super secret project. So I cannot wait to share that with you all. So that's what I'll be doing today. I will just go ahead and adjust all these pages and let them dry. Tomorrow I'll pop them back in the signatures and we will discuss how to add signatures into a cover. And we'll go on from there. If you liked this video or enjoyed it, if you have any questions, today was a very technical day, not a lot of you actually watching the art process, more of me explaining concepts and ideas. So definitely, if you have any questions at all, just put them in the bottom. And obviously, that lets me know what you enjoy seeing, what you want to see more of. Share, get the word out there so that other people can come and see and add to the conversation. And subscribe so that you're notified. Yeah, YouTube right now, I don't know if that's a permanent thing or what, but you subscribe and then you hit the bell button and then you decide how often you want to see uploaded videos from the person that you're subscribing to. So remember that that's very important. And I hope you all enjoyed and had a great time, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.